What's going on, Bo Carter? What's going on, Uncle Quan? Yes, sir. Like I said, we're just going to start a little bit, have everybody come in, see how everybody doing on this good Sunday, man. Officially not going to jump it off until 3 o'clock my time. But what's going on, Bo Carter? What's going on, Uncle I see my man JC already in here. What's going on, JC? Like I said, we're just going to start a little bit, have everybody come in, see how everybody doing on this good Sunday. Like I said, my special guest is a long friend from my college days, Arkansas State. We'll definitely get into a couple of things. I'm gonna let him get adjusted. I already know he's been working today, so I'm not gonna rush him and everything. But again, our guest for today on What's Up, Doug, is I'll call him a friend at Arkansas State. We call each other family. Mr. JC Cox. Just give you a little background from my end with JC. I met JC when I started working with Arkansas State football team back in 2011. I graduated in 2015. JC and myself really didn't talk when I first joined the team. It was actually a play when Arkansas State played Memphis, and our alum JD McKissick flew from the 10-yard line all the way to the end zone. And we looked at each other like, did we just witness a Superman move by a young gentleman that's now in the NFL? So once, 3 o'clock hits, I'll, formally introduce JC. We have a couple questions. He has a couple insights as well that we're going to sit here and go over today. So like I said, everybody just join in. I also, if you have any questions for the both of us, please put it in the chat for me. I will also try my best to read every question that we can get to. But like I said, 3 o'clock, we're gonna go ahead and jump it off. What's going on, JC?
What's up, my friend?
Nothing much, man. Nice seeing your face, man.
Good seeing you, my brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What'd you say?
I said it's been a minute.
Yes, it has, man. Like I said, you already know the players. I know CJ and Book was like, hey, when you coming back? I'm definitely going to try to make it to a game this year. I have not been to a game, and I think the last time I went was in 16, 17. So it's definitely time for me to make it back to Jonesboro, man. So I'm looking forward to it. You hadn't, but this is the crazy thing, though. You want to know something? I have not stepped foot in a new indoor in our new facility yet.
Yeah, you'll be amazed.
I've heard that. I've definitely heard that.
Yeah, I spend a big majority of my days there. So I was just there today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and then just to see how the changes whenever I was a student, and then where we sit here and look at what Terry Mahadra has done and our new ADs have done with the facilities and everything, is just really great to see the growth of a mid-major, which is Arkansas State. So it's great, man. It's great.
It's impressive. Obviously, I've been all over the country to, major universities. I've been to Texas, USC, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. I've been to most places. I've been to Michigan. I've been to Washington. I've been Auburn. I could go on for an hour.
We've been some places. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So when you think about it, in comparison, when you see what the P5 has to offer, and you go to Arkansas State and you see the facility each and every day, it's very comparable. And so when you see people talking about the Group of Five, I mean, Arkansas State's facilities are very high, not just in the Group of Five, but in the country.
Yes, sir. All right. So it is 3 o'clock. Again, Welcome to What's Up, Doug. You know how we started out, man. We're bringing a trending topic. Not a topic today. I'm actually interviewing one of my great friends from Arkansas State with the connections that we've known each other for, we're looking at 8 years now. Yeah, we haven't seen each other in a minute, but we've known each other for 8 years. If you can, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video for us as well. Also, do not forget about our 2 promos. We will be doing our promos here probably second week in April. Hopefully, if we get to 500 subs, I will do a jersey giveaway before the NFL draft. Again, if we get to 500 subs before the NFL draft, we will be doing our jersey giveaway. Also, our $200 cash apps is for the $500 for the 500 subs. And then our jersey giveaway will be done before the 500 subs. But if we get to both at the same time, I'll just do a one show of giving back support to you guys, the subscribers. As you see, I do have my special guest, JC Cox from Arkansas State. JC, go ahead and tell us what, can you please introduce yourself? Tell the What's Up Doug community how you and myself got introduced to each other, how long we known each other, and then, just relationship you and myself have.
Yeah, it's been a long, lengthy relationship. It's been a good one. Obviously, I've been around Arkansas State, the program, since I was a kid. I used to ride my bike to campus. I'd ride my bike to football practice and to basketball games and to baseball, and never in a million years thought that I would be doing what I'm doing now, as connected as I am to Arkansas State. Obviously, I have a daily sports talk show Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm on the Ticket Radio Network, so about 5 stations at a time. Also streaming across the web, rwrcradio.com, as well as the TuneIn Radio app. You can find me there. I'm also credentialed NFL media. Just got back from the NFL Combine not long ago.
Yes, sir.
And I'm scheduled to be at the NFL Draft as well. I'd done that, and me and my man here, we like he mentioned, when he was working closely with the Arkansas State football team, I was there roaming the sidelines way back then, and we'd see each other in passing and give each other a nod and say what's up. And then, like he mentioned, the Memphis game with J.D. McKissick, where he did his best Superman move, scoring a touchdown, and it's a legendary touchdown because he literally flew through the air. We did start a conversation then, and just kind of blew up from that point forward. And so we've known each other for a long time now. Great friend, great young man, like family, and I'm happy to get to be a part of this. And of course, in my other realms, I'm a real estate broker as well. I'm actually at my office now. Been out working the real estate game, and work 24/7. I've been in a rock band for about 16 years. Just released a new single worldwide a couple months back. My band's Falling Within. Golly, what else? Find myself. I'm the sideline analyst for A-State football, so I travel with the team and do all the sideline reports during all the broadcasts, home and away. And and then in my spare time, I try to take a break. Wait a minute. I don't have spare time, so no breaks for me. Just hard at it, but definitely honored to be part of this streaming.
Yes, sir. So you already put the cat out the bag. Where I've been waiting to talk to you. We text whenever you were headed to Indy. You were like, I don't care. I'll use my first name. You was like, yeah, Craig, I'm headed to Indy. I said, you're headed to Indy. And he was like, yeah, you must forgot, I do coverage with the NFL Combine. So just let the people at What's Up, Doug, let them know the process, or, what you did at the Combine. You were able to sit there, and what I saw from, your Facebook, that you were able to sit there during the interview process with different players. You also were able to see some of the quarterbacks, where I would like for us to get into, but just tell us what you saw from the Combine and that experience that you were able to go through during the Combine.
Well, I've been blessed in my career. I've got a lot of connections and lifelong relationships with people in the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, all across college basketball. One of my closest friends just a long-time relationship that I established here at Arkansas State. Coach Grant McCaslin, he was our basketball coach here about 6 years ago, 7 at this point. He just texted me first thing this morning. He just got the Texas Tech job. They announced him right after he won the NIT. I've got great relationships all over the place, including the NFL. I've got people in front office positions there. I've got friends who are on staff as assistant coaches, and getting to know some head coaches while I was there. Matter of fact, a guy that people in the Carolina world would be very familiar with, but got to talk to Ron Rivera not long ago while I was in Indy. He and I rapped a little bit. But no, as far as the NFL, I've been covering it for a long, long time. I am a draft nerd going back to when I was a little kid, when it wasn't this big production that it is now. You didn't have the NFL Combine at that point. I would take the draft out of the newspaper and I'd start writing it down and kind of make my own thing. I was watching the NFL as a kid, and it just was something that was that I loved. I had a passion for it, and it's carried over into my professional career. And the combine, the experience itself, it's lengthy. My average day would be I'd get to the Indianapolis Convention Center. I'd get there about 7:30 in the morning. And then by the time you go through the first couple of days, you don't have field events yet, but you're there doing interviews with all of the top prospects. There's 316, I think, this year that were invited to the combine, and every one of them are made available to the media. And so they all have their own time sessions after they get done with their medicals, and they do interviews, both official and non-official, with teams. And so, yeah, I've had an opportunity to interact with everybody that you see, everybody that's going to be in this draft coming up, especially the top pick. In my opinion, we'll get into who I think is going to go number one to those Panthers.
Yes,
well, I'll tell you, I got a little bit of insight on that. But, of course, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, all those guys. I've talked to every one of those guys while I was in Indy. And so I've been doing it for years. And then my plan, my schedule is to be in KC for the draft as well.
Yes, sir. Like I said, this is not scripted, you guys. Like I said, JC and myself, just a little past history with his radio station. We did interviews before, and he already told me, he was like, Craig, you already know how I roll. I know how you roll. It's going to be smooth sailing. So even with the question that he's answering, this is not scripted. He doesn't know anything that I'm asking. This is just raw, just giving it right to you. What's up, Dub Nation? Like, again, if you have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button for us. Also share the video. Like I said, we're going to bring you content that we think you, the people, need to deserve and like to hear. So with that, you've been at the combine, able to interview some of the particular prospects in this upcoming draft. Where or who to you that was at the NFL combine this past, I think 2 months ago or a month ago, who stood out to you? Just, it doesn't have to be quarterbacks. It doesn't have to sit here and be wide receivers, but for somebody that, like me or Panther Nation, NFL teams around, whoever's listening, what were a couple of prospects that stood out to you when you were sitting there in the stands?
Well, and I'll tell you. So obviously had a session with CJ Stroud. I was a part of that. His session was very big. Quite a bit of media there for that one for some reason. But I will tell you, when he and Anthony Richardson and Will Levis hit the field, everybody was paying attention. CJ, I actually had the pleasure of getting to cover Arkansas State at Ohio State this year. And so I got to see CJ Stroud up close and personal, and he had a really good game, and he's extremely, extremely poised in the pocket. He is the guy that, for me, when I watched him throw at Indy, all he did was confirm what I already knew. He's really, really good at leading the wide receiver into a great position to get yak, and that's yards after catch for those who don't know. And that's why his receivers get so many explosive plays. Yeah, they're super talented and fast and great route runners and all that, but he puts them in great position to turn a 10-yard gain into a 50-yard gain. And that's something that I think he brings to the table. But when I watched him throw, I was looking to my left, and of course, for those, I hadn't even said this on this Zoom yet, but I'm a Bears fan. I'm a lifelong Bears fan, and so my Bears had the number 1 pick prior to trading it, obviously, to the Carolina Panthers, and I'm okay with that. But I won't say who, but I have a tie to the Carolina Panthers, and I was watching said tie with Frank Reich and some of the other brass there at Carolina while these quarterbacks were throwing. And when CJ was throwing, I was looking at them, and I told myself then, I made myself a note while I sat there at Lucas Oil Stadium, and I said, Carolina Panthers are going to take CJ Stroud. And I made that note in my notes that day, and I said, but there's only one way to guarantee that, and that's the trade with my Bears. And so far, I think I'm on the money. Now, draft day is gonna prove whether or not I'm right, but I just seen their eyes and kind of was looking at, kind of their response to what he was doing on the field, and I said they really like him. Bryce didn't throw. Bryce was there. I interviewed him as well. He's my height. I'm 5'11". He's 5'10" and an 8. And so we're very similar height. We stood side by side to each other. He's a guy that everybody wants to talk about his height, but this kid's been throwing behind 6'4", 6'5", 6'6" guys his whole life. So it's not like this is anything new to him. But anyway, CJ, I thought, confirmed everything that I knew. Anthony Richardson is a genetic freak. Whoever gets him, if he can come in and sit for a couple of years behind somebody, he's going to be, I think, incredible. Of course, he's a big fan of Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson. Is Anthony Richardson. He had a nickname growing up like Cam Jackson. And so he was very impressive, like from a physique standpoint, when you looked at him. He's a big man, and he can sling it. Will Levis got a nice arm as well. I know we're talking heavy on quarterbacks, but I'm doing so because I do personally believe the Carolina Panthers are going quarterback number 1 overall. The reason I think that is, I had a interview session that I was a part of with Coach Reich, and one of the things personally that I think that led to his demise at Indianapolis was he didn't have that guy at quarterback. They were trying to find it. And in this league, if you don't have a franchise quarterback, you're in trouble. You're not going anywhere. You will lose your job. And prove positive with Coach Reich. And I think they're not going to mess around. You don't trade up from 9 to 1 unless you're going franchise QB. And I think that is something that they've made priority number 1. I could be wrong. But CJ he looked really, really good. And I think he would fit really, really well in that system that Coach Reich and that staff are going to have there in Carolina. As far as some of the other guys that stood out to me, there were a ton of guys that I thought, Will Anderson, he was as advertised. I thought he was really good. I really like Christian Gonzalez, the corner out of Oregon, silky smooth. He's a day 1 starter for someone. Nolan Smith is super impressive to me at outside linebacker, rush edge. I really, really like him. Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa reminds me of JJ Watt, to be a guy that has never started in his college football career. His first start is going to be in the NFL, and he's going to be somebody that is worth keeping an eye on as well. But I'll tell you what, one guy that really, really stood out to me that I really, really enjoyed getting to hear him talk and just watching him on the field was Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, the wide receiver out of Boston College, is a guy that I think he's going to be sneaky good. I think if somebody gets him at the bottom of the first or the top of the second, it's a steal. I personally have him. When I look, I've got Jackson Smith and Jigba as the number 1 receiver in this draft. Quentin Johnson, I got him right behind just from his size and his measurables, and I think what he's going to bring to the table. But honestly, I would put Zay Flowers above Jordan Addison. And I know a lot of people think I'm crazy for saying that, but Zay was so smooth in his field drills. He was very good in his interview process. I really, really came away from that combine saying, man, that guy right there, that guy's going to make some big money in this league at some point.
Yeah, I mean, Zay Flowers, you're not saying anything on this side because even though with my Panthers sitting there getting Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, yes, we had TMJ. I do think Carolina is also going to look for a wide receiver in the draft. And I like Zay Flowers, and I like my guy at UNC, Josh Downs as well. So you saying Zay Flowers, that's a great, hearing you break that down with Zay Flowers, I actually love that because that's what I need to hear because me seeing a pro day, but somebody actually looking and seeing it in person is different than me seeing on TV because you're not going to see everything on TV.
So, no, not at all. And, just hearing, having his interview session with the media. I mean, he's a great personality, super confident individual. And I felt like he put on a real show in the field drills. It's really good to see Jackson Smith and Jigba healthy again. He battled injuries all year long this year for the Buckeyes. We didn't have to see him when we were at the Horseshoe, thank goodness. But instead, we got a heavy dose of Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yes,
yeah. And by the way, for those who don't know, Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably going to be a top 3 pick in the draft next year. And I think he's good enough. Personally, I think he is good enough to be one of those guys that flirts with going in the top 2. And, it's just hard when you have quarterbacks and the heavy emphasis that we put on franchise QBs. Next year's quarterback class is going to be better than this one. But I'm telling you right now, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be one of those guys. I think when we think about Keyshawn Johnson, when he went number 1 overall to the Jets, it's not something you see very often anymore. You don't see wide receivers going in the top 3 picks anymore. You just don't see it. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to change that. He is going to be a generational talent that is going to be hard to pass up. And I cannot wait to see where he goes. I mean, I take him in Chicago. I just hope we don't have a top 3 pick next year. If we do, it's not going to be ours. It's going to be yours.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's transition to that. So whenever we traded for the number 1 pick with you guys, I want to say, weren't you at practice? Wasn't at practice? Because I think I texted you and you were like, you smiled and I was like, yeah, we got to get this interview. We have to get this interview.
Let's see. When it my phone went crazy when it happened. Because it's obviously no shortage of people in the world who know I'm a Bears guy.
Correct.
And then obviously that know I'm a NFL draft football head, all of the above. There had been a lot of rumblings about that. Ryan Poles had made it very clear to the brass there in Carolina that if they were going to get this thing done, that DJ Moore was going to have to be a part of the package.
Yes, sir.
For the Bears, there was no secret that Justin Fields is the franchise. I'm a big JF fan. Going into the offseason, my whole mantra was whatever Justin Fields needs, whatever that needs. If it's offensive linemen, if it's targets on the outside, and then obviously, when you can fix the defensive side of the football, that gives the ball back to Justin Fields. The quicker you can get the opponent off the field, Jay Fields gets the ball back. And so everything that I think that they do as a franchise needs to be built around what does Justin Fields need to succeed in this league. And we didn't have a 1. Darnell Mooney is not a 1. He's not. He's a 3, and he's great. He's talented. Love the kid. But you had to have a 1. And DJ Moore, when you look at his numbers and the way he was able to perform in Carolina with somebody sacking groceries at quarterback, and I'm just being honest.
I know how you are.
He just, every time you turned around, it was a different quarterback that DJ was working with. It's just a product of a revolving door there in Carolina. No disrespect to those guys, but they're not Justin Fields. I'll say that. Yeah. They're not Justin Fields. They don't have his intangibles and the ability that he's going to have that he hasn't been able to show yet. But DJ Moore was a priority for Ryan Poles. in the front office of the Bears in order to get that trade done. And I think it just came down to it where Carolina's like, okay, if we're going to try to jump ahead of the Texans, because the Texans are quiet. The Texans aren't going to trade up. They're sitting at 2. They're good at 2. They're going to have, likely they love 2, maybe 3 quarterbacks. But if you're Carolina at 9, you're not getting any of the quarterbacks at 9. None. They're all going to go before 9. You're not going to have a Will Levis sitting there at 9. Anthony Richardson will not be there at 9. And we both know that C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young are going 1 and 2.
Correct.
And so I think that's what it came down to. DJ, obviously, you're going to be part of a rebuild in Carolina. How quick that rebuild is, I'm not sure. But I think the moves that they're making so far is very intelligent. But you've got to have somebody to build around, somebody to get that fan base excited about again. You traded CMC as well. And, it's going to be a new identity there in Carolina. And DJ had to be part of that package. And I think Ryan Poles knew he held all the cards. And in this, he got nice draft return as far as capital goes. And he also got a number 1 wide receiver, which was a big, big need for this team.
Correct, because on my end, the way I'm looking at it is when I got the news, I did a reaction video, and I was just mind blown because it was like, in my eyes, we already got the right coach that we needed to get with Frank Wright. The way Frank Wright has built this coaching staff is a top 5, top 10 coaching staff in my mind. And then from how we were addressing free agency or trying to, then to get the number 1 pick. And yes, you're going to love and you're going to enjoy watching DJ Moore. DJ Moore is a selfless, not selfish type of player. He keeps his head down and he plays regardless. Like you said, look at the type of quarterbacks we had. Not once did he sit there and complain. Not once did he ask for a trade. And I know what you guys tried to do with Chase Claypool last year with him bringing him in. And my eyes, I don't think he lived up to the hype that he should have in the trade package that you guys gave up. But to add DJ Moore with Justin Fields, I do think Fields does have his number 1. I just don't know how much better DJ can do with Justin Fields. Because in my eyes, I feel like Justin is a run first type of quarterback, but also I don't think he had enough help from his previous regime, meaning the GM, helping him get the pieces in that can help him be the quarterback he needs to be.
With that being said, I don't think we know what Justin Fields can and can't do.
Okay.
I would say we know he can run the football for over 1,100 yards. And I know that every defense that the Bears faced, their defensive coordinator stayed up at night going, we got to figure out how to stop this dude. And the crazy thing is, all those defenses knew he was running. It didn't matter. They knew he was going to run the football, but guess what? You couldn't stop him.
Correct.
And the dude's dynamic as far as his ability to pass the football. It is a work in progress. I think for me, what I see from Justin is that he needs to trust his first instincts. I think he doubts himself at times, but at the same time, it's never been fair. Like, he's never had true targets. He's never had. Chase Claypool was a late addition. You get him midseason trade. He's drinking out of a fire hydrant, trying to learn the offense, see where he fits in. He comes over from Pittsburgh. It's the only thing he's ever known in his pro career. You get him in. The Bears obviously had injuries. You still had a shuffling of the offensive line. There was a lot that went into it. And to be quite frank, Justin Fields was in yet another offensive system. It's his third. It's just not been fair to Justin Fields at this point. Now, you shore up the offensive line. You get him some targets on the outside. Really, it's not a bad 3 when you think about you're going to have a DJ Moore, you're going to have a Chase Claypool, and you're going to have a Darnell Mooney, who was out also last year. He was hurt too. And so you get that offensive line shored up. Obviously, at the tight end position with Cole Kmet, he had a kind of a breakout year last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to help. And they're not done. They're not done. And I mean, Deontay Foreman is a guy that they're bringing in at running back to replace Monty, who went to Detroit. He wanted big money, but let's just be frank. Running backs are a dime a dozen in this league now. They don't bring the premium that they used to bring. It's just the way that it is. You can draft a guy in the 5th round and get production. You can do running back by committee. You can have 3 guys to get it done instead of 1. And that's what most teams believe in now, because there's such a high premium with the quarterback, with the wide receiver, with rush edges. You're looking at where the monies that are being made. Look at the offensive linemen. I mean, you've got guys breaking the bank on the O-line. And so you just watch in the offseason, look at the running backs. Look at Zeke. Zeke just gets cut by the Cowboys. He gets like, thank you for your service. We're going to go over here and we're going to take a guy who's coming off injury and we're going to tag him for $10 million and we're going to send you on your way, Zeke. Sorry, thank you for everything you've done. It's not the old NFL anymore. So what you see from running backs, it's not going to be, Tony Pollard came in and was very explosive until he got hurt. And of course, It was a contract year for him and worst time for him to get hurt. And so he gets the tag. Well, tag average this year for a running back, $10 million. But how are you going to pay Zeke? You're not, now the word on the street is they're open to him coming back if he can't get a deal done somewhere else, but he's going to come back for a deal like $3 million. They're going to put some incentives in place. If he happens to come back, I know that he's interested in maybe going to Cincinnati, and there's a couple other clubs that he's interested in. But anyway, this offseason is showing more and more the direction of the NFL. You're seeing quarterbacks bank. You're seeing guys. I mean, you look in New York alone, with the Giants. You see Daniel Jones, you see Saquon Barkley, right? Both these guys, New York wants to keep. If they could not get a deal in place for Daniel Jones, and they overpaid for him, I don't care what anybody says.
They did.
They gave that dude way too much money.
Correct.
But you got to have a franchise guy. And so what'd they do? All right, we broke the bank with Daniel Jones. Hey, sorry, Saquon. I know you're back and you make this team go, but here's your tag. They didn't reward him with a big contract. They franchise tagged him, and that was the way they were going to keep him in place.
And see with you going into that, because I also try to break down talking about Daniel Jones, because when I saw the contract, I said, "Are you kidding me? You didn't." I mean, regardless of Saquon Barkley's injuries, you saw when he had a coach that believed in him and the GM that tried to do so much within, I think, year 1. When Saquon was healthy, I feel like Saquon should have got the bag more than Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones was a reach when he came out. The man came from Duke. Only thing he did was he looked good in measurements. He looked good at a pro day. He looked good at a combine. And really and truly, I feel like the Giants reached for a quarterback because they needed to fill that void once Eli Manning was gone. And so then with you going into free agency, before you guys even traded away the number 1 pick, the Bears had a lot of money out there. You guys set out there and were aggressive from the jump. You guys is it TJ Edwards, the linebacker from the Philadelphia Eagles you guys signed? How do you feel you guys were grade-wise? What would you give the organization for how aggressive you guys were to address those defensive needs? Even I actually like the signing that y'all got Edmonds from Buffalo. I actually love that one. Mm-hmm. So give me your grade on what the Chicago Bears are able to do this offseason, and then I'll tell you mine. And then also on your end, tell me what you think. Like you said, you addressed how the Panthers are trying to help their rookie quarterback, but how do you feel about the holes that we try to address and also help our rookie get acquainted and also have weapons with DJ Moore leaving?
So I'll start with the Bears. I think it's TBD, though, because I think the biggest impact the Bears were going to make is in the draft. Making the trade and getting DJ Moore, that was a huge piece. But the capital that comes back in return is big. And so I've felt like all along that Ryan Poles is a guy that's going to build through the draft. Bears still got a ton of money. They didn't go out and go spending crazy. They made some big moves. I mean, you mentioned Edwards and Edmonds, and those were the two splash moves really as far as in free agency goes. The big splash move in the trade world was obviously DJ Moore and that trade with the Panthers. But I think it's to be determined. I want to see what Poles does in the draft. There's the potential they trade back again. I mean, depending on how this thing falls, in my personal opinion, I think we're going to see, 4 to 5 quarterbacks go in the top 8. I mean, the opportunity is there, because when they start flying off the board, we already know there's no doubt that Stroud and Young are gone 1 and 2 in
Correct.
some way, shape, or form. They're gone 1 and 2. Ain't no doubt. What's going to be next? Is it going to be Richardson or Levis? Everybody was in love with Levis before the combine, and then Richardson shows up and he's a genetic freak, and he does things, and everybody's like, whoa. Yeah, he's a little bit of I think Levis and Richardson both need to sit for 2 years. I think Young and Stroud could go in year 1. Now, there's a wild card in my opinion at number 5, Hendon Hooker. I loved what I've seen from him at Tennessee. He's a guy that, had he not got hurt, we might be talking about him as the 3rd best quarterback, in this draft. I think he may have potentially went then. But looking at what the Bears have done thus far, they filled needs. They have not been overly flashy. They have not, a lot of people thought they were going to drop big money on an offensive lineman. They thought that they were going to do that. You see how crazy those, like with McGlinchey, how crazy those contracts got. Poles has said all along, just because I got money don't mean I'm going to spend it. He's
Correct.
like, we're going to be very, very smart in our decisions and how we use it, because here's the thing. Next year's crop's going to be good too. So, don't go just throwing away money because you have it. And I thought what he's done so far has been very strategic. It's been very need-oriented. When I look at the Panthers, I think it's TBD with them as well, because they're clearly in rebuild mode. I think we all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But Coach Reich and his staff that he has surrounded himself with they're going to be just fine in Carolina. I think you're just going to have to take a little bit of time. I like the moves that they have made so far in the offseason, but let's see what they do. Do they go CJ Stroud? I personally think they do, but I could be wrong. I mean, they may be playing it coy. There may be somebody that they truly love more at number 1, but I personally think it's Stroud just based on what I've seen. But you're starting from the ground up with this team. Now, the best part about Carolina is defensively, they're pretty well intact,
Yes,
and if you can play defense, you can stay in some games. And that'll take a little bit of time. And trust me, I know what that's like, because I've got a former Ohio State quarterback as our quarterback. We had a defense that was better than the offense, and we had a defense that was holding it together for us while we had a young quarterback trying to figure his way out in the league. And you guys are going to be in the exact same spot. I don't think this is going to be a long rebuild for Carolina. I think it's going to be 2 to 3 years. But you've got to have a guy. You've got to get that fan base excited again. I'm sure the trade excited them, because any fan base that comes off a rough season, you got to have some kind of hope. You got to have some kind of hope. And the hope is we got the number 1 overall pick. As a Bears fan, we had it for a while until we traded it. It's exciting because you hold all the cards at the top of the draft. You literally can take anybody you want, and there's nothing that any team can do about it. So when you own that number 1 pick, it gives you a lot of optimism, and I think Carolina has a lot of reason to be optimistic at this point.
And I feel the same with you guys, because when the trade for the number 1 pick actually happened, it was more like, okay. But then in the back of my mind, I'm like, we play the Bears. The Bears made some sneaky moves. Like you said, you guys addressed a lot on the defense, and you also helped Justin Fields get a weapon in DJ Moore. Then whenever we signed Miles Sanders and there was talks of Deontay Foreman coming to Carolina and be on 1-2 punch, and he signed with the Bears, and I was like, whoa. I'm like, for $3 million, you could have came back to Carolina. You didn't have to sit there and go to Chicago Bears. But when I look at it, for Carolina, Frank Wright in his introductory press conference sat there and said that he does not think we need a rebuild. I understand you can say whatever you want, but you have to be real with yourself. The defense is intact. He wants that defense to be from a top 10 defense to a top 5 defense. Then on top of that, he wants to win now. He already alluded to how the Bengals did with Joe Burrow. How Joe Burrow, he tore his ACL his first year, and in the second year, they made it to the Super Bowl. He sat here and said that he knows what to do. He knew the coaches that he was going to get in here, and look at the plan that he did. Again, look at the coaching staff. Look at the errors that he sat here and addressed. You had Von Bell, which is a safety that we need to, with Jeremy Ching going down in the box. Then you got Adam Thielen. Yes, he's up in age, but just not in 2017 and 18. You look at what he did with Stephon Diggs. Regardless of what people think Diggs was, Adam Thielen was a beast. And then when you get Justin Jefferson with, your Bears playing the Vikings in that division, most of the focus is on Jefferson. So you get Adam Thielen. Then you also got Miles Sanders coming off of a great year behind a top 3 offensive line, then reuniting with the running backs coach that signed him as a rookie. I feel like we addressed the needs that we had as well. But like you said, it's to be determined. But with that being said, I cannot wait until we play you guys this year, because it's going to be a lot of storylines along there with DJ Moore, Deontay Foreman, PJ Walker. Then with us trading our 9th pick with you guys for the first pick, I can't wait for that game. I hope it's not going to be late, because you know how the Windy City gets up there. But tell me what are you looking forward to when we play you guys, when that game comes, and do you want it early in the season or do you want it later in the season?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a guy that looks too far ahead when it comes to schedules. Is there going to be some ties and some storylines? Absolutely. This is the biggest trade of the NFL offseason has been the Bears and the Panthers. Everybody knows it. Anytime the number 1 pick is involved, it's going to steal the headline. DJ Moore getting to play against his old team. Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Coach Reich is going to do everything. He's super competitive. Everybody knows that. He played in the league. He's a guy that, speaking of storylines, has one of the best storylines in the NFL, when you think about when he played. But I do think it's, in my personal opinion, it's going to be a hurry up and wait for the fan base of Carolina. You want to be competitive. Trust me, I'm the most competitive person on the planet. But I knew coming in over the last couple of years for the Bears that we were nowhere near being where we needed to be. And like for me, it felt like it was a franchise with no direction. So when the move was made from Ryan Pace to Ryan Poles, that was great. Obviously, making a change at head coach was very necessary. Putting Justin Fields with an offensive coordinator and Luke Getsy that gets it, pardon the pun, and will actually play to Jay Fields' strengths. I think what you're going to see in that matchup is you're going to see 2 teams that one is where the other one wants to be, and one was where that one was. And because there's a lot of identical storylines between the Bears and the Panthers. You've got a new regime there in Carolina. You're going to have a new young quarterback who happens to be from Ohio State, in my personal opinion. You're going to have a defense that's going to carry you in the meantime till the offense catches up and you get new pieces around CJ Stroud. I love the signing of Hayden Hurst. I really like that move at tight end for Carolina. I think that's a great one. Again, getting Miles Sanders from Philly. That's a nice pickup there as well. But I think the Bears are going to be a team that I'm not saying I definitely don't feel like we're going to be a Super Bowl contender yet. I think we're going to be a year away from really being able to contend. But I do believe the Bears are going to be a team that can win the NFC North and that can be in the playoffs. And I think with Carolina, the plus side that I will give you with Carolina is the division is terrible.
Correct.
The division is terrible. It was the worst division in football, in my opinion, this year. I mean, obviously, take a look at it. You had a team with a losing record make the playoffs. That is going to be one thing that I think is going to help the Panthers. Is you're in a division that was not very good. Is there improvement? 100%. Yeah, some teams have definitely improved themselves. I think, Derek Carr going to New Orleans. I think that's a big get. I think that they're going to be much improved this year. My friend Demario Davis continuing to do the dang thing there on the defensive side of the football and one of the best linebackers in the league. Definitely happy for him that they got another franchise quarterback again. Now, with that being said, you guys have a guy over there on the roster at Carolina named Andy Dalton, who was a Bear, who was a Saint, who is now going to be a placeholder there. He's becoming a placeholder now. That's the part of the Red Rockets' career at this point. He can win some games when he needs to. But you've got him. And then what I'm really interested in when I think about the Panthers is I don't hear enough people talking about Matt Corral. He got hurt last year, and he was a dude first to show up for practice, last one to leave. The guy out of Ole Miss that it feels like nobody wants to talk about. I'm curious as to what's going to happen with him. I really, really liked him out of college. He was definitely a guy that I felt like was going to need some seasoning, was going to need, a couple of years. Also, too, speaking of sneaky moves, Frank Reich goes and gets a guy to add to that quarterback room that he was familiar with, Jacob Eason, who was there in Indy with him. That's a great move, and you'll see Coach Reich is to me quietly putting together something special there in Carolina, and he's getting pieces both on his staff but also on the team that knows kind of what he expects, understands the system, and is going to help bring that thing along maybe a little bit quicker than some might anticipate. I think the Carolina Panthers are a couple years away from really being back to being a serious playoff contender, but that's okay. Every team goes through it. You see the teams that build too fast, they're a flash in the pan. I mean, look at the Los Angeles Rams.
Correct.
The Rams went from being a Super Bowl winning team to a team that they have no identity now. They have no identity there. Jalen Ramsey gets traded. You still have Aaron Donald, who is a generational superstar in the interior defensive line. But who are the Rams? They weren't a playoff team, and they spent so much money. They had no cap room. They were cap strapped. They had traded away all their assets. Like, they don't have even draft capital, and they find themselves in draft and free agency hell right now. Do you want to be that, or would you rather have the slow burn like the Panthers are going to do, like the Bears have been doing, where they're just kind of gradually building it to something that's going to be sustainable? And that's the thing with a guy like Ryan Poles, who comes over from a model franchise in Kansas City, who you look, and in the offseason, it was like, oh gosh, who's Patrick Mahomes going to throw to?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
And like
Mahomes,
you said, I mean, just look at what he did. Look exactly what he did. And that goes into your GM and your head coach being in sync. Because when the Cheetah went to Miami, that, like you said, everybody was like, Travis Kelce's going to get double teamed. What are they going to do? They went and got Juju. They still had Harmon. Then they got the young boy out of Rutgers. And most of those rookies and the rookie wide receiver, I can't think of his name right now, they all showed up. It wasn't sitting here like,
Scott Moore.
So much attention was on Tyreek Hill, but that goes into, like you said, you have to draft. I mean, you can address needs in free agency, but the draft is where you build that. And that goes into where you were saying with the Carolina Panthers, our division is porous. With Tom Brady retiring, Tampa Bay is kind of in between right now. Then you have Atlanta that had money. They sat there, addressed their needs. And yes, we both know DeMario Davis, but I feel like overall with that team, they lost so many key defensive players on that side that Carolina can possibly have a losing record and win a division, or it can be a 9-8 team. Or I'll give you another example. Just look what Doug Peterson did with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They had Urban Meyer there as their coach. And then with a new coach and what Doug Peterson was able to bring into that organization, look what Trevor Lawrence and that team was able to do in the playoffs this past year. Not saying Carolina can do that. That's my hope. But at the same time,
think about it, brother. Think about, Jacksonville. It was a slow burn with them too.
Yep,
It was a slow burn. This wasn't Trevor Lawrence's first year.
Mm-hmm.
It was a slow burn with them. They came out of nowhere and were better quicker than people thought. And that's what I'm saying. I'm giving it a 2-year window for Carolina. I think that you've got some really good pieces. I think you can be competitive. But I think it is the one hope is the division. How much does that division improve in a year? If you ask me today, this is pre-draft. Where the draft isn't happening until the end of the month. If you ask me today, it's, in my personal opinion, it's the Saints division to lose. It's just with the pieces that they already have in place, getting Derek Carr. They're still going to have a draft in front of them too. I think that it was a good move for Tampa Bay to go out and get a Baker Mayfield to compete with Kyle Trask. They got a new quarterback coach who I think is going to really help that process there. At the wide receiver position, they're in pretty good shape. I think they're going to need some help in the backfield defensively. They're not bad. They brought a lot of guys back. Let's be honest, TB12 wasn't TB12 a year ago. He made a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes last year. But I will tell you that I think that they can compete somewhat. Let's see what Baker Mayfield does. That dude didn't look too bad for the Rams at the end of the season last year. We all know that a lot of people go to Cleveland to have their careers end. It's just the way that it is. So the division is the one thing that I will say could help Carolina exceed expectations, but I do think that it's still going to be a slow burn with them. But enjoy the process, in my opinion. That has been what I had to tell myself as a Bears fan. Enjoy the process because I hate losing. We had the worst record in the NFL, and I hated every freaking game, and I watched every freaking game. I don't miss a game. But I just kept telling myself, okay, one of my favorite things about the NFL is watching a team get built. And if I could go back and do life all over again, I'd be an NFL GM. It's a passion of mine. I love it. It's the world that I live in. I love it. And so I had to kind of shift my mindset from a fan's perspective to, okay, cool. This is bad, but here's the silver lining. Silver lining is we're going to have the number 1 overall pick. Silver lining is we're going to have a ton of money in free agency at our disposal if we want to use it. And we're going to get to watch Ryan Poles build this thing from the ground up the way he wants it to be built. And so, again, that's what I kept telling myself. Okay, all right, just let it go. There are better days ahead. I see very, very similar attributes in what's going on in Carolina.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. Like my checklist was Carolina was 3 boxes: get a great coach, attack free agency, and draft well. And so far, I feel like we have 2 out of 3. Don't know how the draft is going to go, but for you to be that aggressive to get the number 1 pick and go get your quarterback, not sit there and have you, I call it doing a revolving door. You started with, Cam was supposed to be our quarterback when Matt Rule came in. Then you saw how that went when you had Teddy Bridgewater, now to where we're at right now. I'm just glad that Scott Fitter and Frank Wright are like-minded and they're sitting there trying to do it right and sit there and get our quarterback. Again, if you're liking the content, please hit the like button, share the video. Also leave a comment. We're almost, concluding up. If you have any questions for JC or myself, please leave it in the chat for us. So JC, with the free agency almost concluding, where do you see other holes that you guys need to address in the draft? And give me a couple of players that you would like the Chicago Bears to draft if they're available during that time.
Oh, man. Being at 9 changes things. I really wanted Will Anderson Jr. That's who I wanted. I was hoping we would trade back, maybe to 4, with Indy, honestly, because I knew they need a quarterback as well. Now that we're at 9, it's kind of one of those deals where I need to know what's going to happen in 1 through 8. I can tell you that 4 of the 8 will be quarterbacks. I know that. So what I do immediately is I start looking at, that's only going to be 4 position players off the board. We know one of those 4 position players off the board is going to be Will Anderson. No doubt about it. That's going to happen. In my opinion, one of those 4 also going to be Christian Gonzalez. I think he's going to be the best corner in this draft. I think he's going to be gone. And so then you look and you're like, okay, there's 2 more position players that are going to be off the board before the Bears draft at 9. Who's that going to be? And you start looking ahead and you're like, okay, well, is there going to be? Is a team going to jump up out of fear of losing a quarterback? Because, again, everything that we do in this draft is quarterback driven. Everything is quarterback driven. Ahead and thinking, okay, who actually move? And obviously Carolina at 1, Houston at 2, Arizona sitting there at 3. Arizona is in a great position. They're going to have their pick. I mean, they've got their franchise quarterback. He's hurt, albeit they owe him a ton of money. So Kyler Murray's not going anywhere. Indy's going to need the quarterback there at 4. But if you're Indy, are you afraid that somebody's going to entice Arizona at 3 and Indy gets jumped? And now next thing you know, 3 of the 4 quarterbacks are gone by the time it gets to you at 4, which could potentially happen. You could see, somebody like Vegas doing it if there's somebody they're in love with. Because, again, they don't have a long-term quarterback solution. They have Jimmy G there, but Jimmy G is going to be there to kind of fill the gap until another quarterback is ready. But for my Bears sitting at 9, I'll be honest with you, I've kind of went back and forth. Obviously, being at the Combine when the news broke about Jalen Carter, I was sitting there at the very front of the podium waiting on him to get there when the news broke, and it was like mass hysteria in there when that news broke. And ever since then, all he's done is fall. He's fell down the draft board. Most draft boards had him the number 1 player on the board, period, regardless of position. And so I've been kind of going back and forth with myself there. He's the perfect fit for what the Bears do defensively on that line. It's kind of the straw that stirs the drink in that defense for the Bears. And so if we could take him at 9, I think it's kind of worth the risk at 9. If we don't, I could definitely see the Bears going the direction of offensive line. When you're trying to, again, take care of your franchise quarterback, how great would it be that you could get him an offensive tackle in Paris Johnson Jr., who did block for him already at Ohio State, who has a relationship. I wouldn't be mad at that. But there is a guy in this draft that I think he is probably going to be a steal because I think he's going to go lower than he should. And I really, really like him. I enjoyed talking to him at the draft. And when he got on the field, his numbers were incredible. But Nolan Smith out of Georgia, a rush edge, outside linebacker, he's the guy that I really, really like. I like that kid. I think he's going to be a star. If you ask me today, JC, you can take Jalen Carter, you can take Nolan Smith. I'm taking Nolan Smith because I don't have any character questions for Nolan Smith. I don't have any work ethic questions for Nolan Smith. If you're in the top 10, you can't swing and miss. Like you've got to get it right. You've got to get it right if you're the Bears when you trade from 1 to 9. You've got to get it right. Jalen Carter, though, I don't think anybody could blame the Bears if they rolled the dice there. And if he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. But I want to be able to strike gold at 9. And so I really, really like Nolan Smith. I don't think that's the direction the Bears would go. And I tell you, I love Jackson Smith and Jigba. You know, if we could trade back again and pick up some more draft capital and swing on, even though we got DJ Moore, again, another way to make Justin comfortable is as an Ohio State product. You know, a guy in Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I think is the number 1 receiver in the draft.
Yes, sir.
And so anyway, I would definitely say O-line, whether it's Peter Skronsky or Paris Johnson there, looks good to me. I would be fine with Nolan Smith, especially if the Bears could trade back again and still get him later, because I think he's going to go later than he should.
Yeah. Outside of quarterback, like I said, you said Zay Flowers. Nolan Smith, I feel, got his bag at the combine. Also, like I said, Josh Downs. What do you think about Ika? What did you see out of Ika out of Baylor, the D tackle? What did you see out of him when he was at the combine?
So what I will say is when I looked at the defensive tackles, when I looked at the D linemen in Indy, there's a lot of talent there. I mean, there's a guy that's going to probably go at the bottom of the first round that, in my opinion, is going to blow people's mind. I would gamble on him in the top 15 if it was me. But I think he's going to be one of those guys. And like the Dallas Cowboys are notorious for sitting there at the end of the draft and having guys fall in their lap. And this guy is probably going to be one of those guys that ends up falling in their lap. When you think about CeeDee Lamb fell in their lap. Mm-hmm. They've had so many guys over the year that have just fell in their lap. You know, guys that maybe had some questionable character or had some off the field things or, didn't have a great combine or something happened at pro day. And the Cowboys are like, hell, we'll take a chance. But Kancey out of Pittsburgh, I thought he probably, to me, he was one of the guys that came out of the blue and just absolutely blew the combine away. He's a guy that I think is going to be a late first rounder. And the only reason for that is his height. If you look at him and you think about Aaron Donald, who came out of Pittsburgh, he is like a mini Aaron Donald.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he is a mini Aaron Donald. I mean, he's about 6 foot, 6'1", maybe. That kid, I love that kid. Like, I think somebody's going to strike gold on him. You were asking about Siaka Ika out of Baylor. Mm-hmm. He's a guy too, big body, big space eater. That he's going to be a dude that is going to absolutely stuff the run for somebody at the next level. He's 6'3", probably 340, 345. They probably list him less than that, but he is a big man. He's going to be a guy that I think certainly, like, to me, fit is going to matter for him. Like, he needs to go to the right place with the right system to see pretty quick success in the NFL. But I really like him. He's a big dude. But I think he's going to be a guy that, it depends on the run. It depends on the run of defensive tackles, and interior defensive linemen. But he's a guy that's probably going to go in the second round, just to be honest. But again, if you're looking to stuff the run and you have to be able to stop the run in the NFL, he's the guy that certainly could help you.
Okay. All right. Any surprises we should expect in less than 25 days on draft day, or you think there's going to be more trades? Like anything that us as fans don't know yet? Is there anything that you want us to be on the lookout, or any insight that you want to give? Anything?
Well, so when I was in Indy, I think I tweeted it out while I was there. I said, man, there's a lot of chatter of Derek Carr to New Orleans, and he was in Indy while I was there. And I said, man, I'm hearing a lot of talk about Derek Carr to New Orleans. It may be nothing, but, there was a lot of talk, and Frank Reich answered a lot of questions while we were in Indy about Derek Carr, and they had him, they met with him in Indy as well. And I was just like, the more people I talked to, the more I was getting Derek Carr to New Orleans vibe. And so I put it out, and I guess it was maybe, I don't know, a week later or whatever that the deal got done. And when you think about it, when they swung and missed on Derek Carr, immediately Carolina turned to the draft. And it was,
right.
Okay, we didn't get Carr. Now we got to figure out how to get our franchise quarterback, and we're going to do that through the draft. What I will say leading up to the draft, as we get closer and closer to it, obviously it's roughly a month away. I would keep an eye on the jockeying at the top of the draft. Again, keep an eye on Indianapolis. What do they do? They've got to have a quarterback. The Matt Ryan experience did not work. He's still going to be getting paid well. His agent did a really good job and structured a deal really favorable for him. But that 3 and that 4 there, Arizona sitting right there. Somebody's going to come up there. Somebody's going to come up to Arizona to get ahead of Indy. And if you're Arizona, you start leaking things that makes Indy nervous, because they're going to have a quarterback. They got to have a guy, right? And if you're hearing all the rumblings, and it's going to happen, the closer this thing gets to the draft, if you're Indy, do you really want to be sitting there at 4 and 3 of the 4 quarterbacks are gone? And especially if you've got a guy, like if you've got a guy in your head, and let's just be truthful. If you like Will Levis or if you like Anthony Richardson and you're sitting there at 4, guess what? There's probably 2, 3, 4 other teams that like those 2 guys too. And you've got a new front office in Arizona. They're gonna look to get that team rolling. You've got a new head coach in Arizona, and as you sit there, they are now in the catbird seat. If you're asking my opinion, Arizona is in the catbird seat, because here's the thing. If you're sitting there right now as the Arizona, you've got needs. You've got needs. And you see Seattle sitting there at 5. Seattle obviously just gave Geno some money. Who jumps up? What quarterback hungry team, whether it's Vegas or Atlanta, that are at 7 and 8? Which one of those are calling Arizona to say, hey, we want to get ahead of this Colts team? And it's going to be the team, in my opinion, that's in love with Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
There is a team that is in love with Anthony Richardson right now that cannot sit there and wait on him to fall. He's going to be the hot commodity because of all of his physical attributes, his comparisons to Cam Newton. To be quite frank, he's a better passer than Cam Newton. And I know that might be blasphemy for me talking to people in Carolina.
I know a lot of fans over here are going to say that's blasphemy. Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, I think Anthony Richardson, he has an extremely strong arm, and I do think he's underrated as a passer. I do understand he's had limited start at the collegiate level, but I'll be honest with you, he was put in a pretty bad position in Florida. Like he was put in a pretty bad position. He was the best player on the team, and he was trying to make do the best that he could with what he had around him. There is a team that's going to be in love with Anthony Richardson. Is it the Falcons? Do the Falcons jump from 8 to 3? That's going to be what I say keep an eye on as the draft comes. Keep an eye on the Arizona Cardinals in that number 3, because I think there's a really good chance that you're going to see quarterback go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what I'll say. Keep an eye on.
Okay. Well, what's up, Doug Nation? Again, it's your man, C. Dougie. I appreciate my friend. Like I said, this is family right here. JC Cox joining us this afternoon. Again, JC, I appreciate you. You know, this is not the only time. Again, also, I don't know if people heard in the beginning, he has his own radio station out in Jonesboro, Arkansas, RWRC. You want to go ahead and talk about that as well, JC?
Yeah, you can check me out. I'm on air, RWRC Radio, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm on the Ticket Radio Network. They're my great affiliate here in Jonesboro. Of course, they're part of East Arkansas Broadcasters, the flagship station of Arkansas State Athletics. And so my show goes to them. They blast it out to the world for me. I've got a great relationship with them, and I appreciate them so much for having my show on their station each and every day, Monday through Friday. Here in the great state of Arkansas, carries over to Tennessee and so on and so forth. But appreciate them. And, you know, my show, we talk everything sports. We talk food. We talk pop culture. We talk music. I'm a music guy. I'm a food guy. I love movies. You know, I love all of that stuff. Of course, I'm sitting here in my conference room at my brokerage right now, and I got the national championship game on, LSU and Iowa making this thing a game again. But
I'm looking
we talk
too.
everything. Yeah, we talk everything on my show. Of course, for those of you out there that are not in our immediate listening area, you can find me. My website's rwrcradio.com. You can listen right there on the website. Also, the TuneIn Radio app, just search RWRC Radio. You can listen to me. And again, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm on air. And I would love to hear from everybody. You can find me. I'm on Twitter, JC_RWRC. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. You can find me in all those places. I always interact and respond to everybody. And it's one of my favorite times of the year. We got March Madness going on. We have baseball. The baseball season is underway. I'm a big Cubs fan. I'm a Bulls fan. I'm a Bears fan. And so this is the greatest time of year. And I am a draft fanatic. And so I'm excited now that we're finally in the month of April. We're going to start to get some answers at the end of the month. And, you know, this is the best part. You know, this is the best part, my friend. When every team and every fan of every team in the league feels like they have an opportunity. You know, when you go into the draft, you feel like you're very optimistic. And it's a fun time to be a sports fan.
Yes, sir. And with that, like I said, two other things that we're going to do. Don't forget our promo. Again, I will say it correctly. We will be doing our jersey giveaway, but they're here in 2 weeks. Hopefully we can do it before the draft. I know we will. Also, let's get Wassup Doug to 500 subs. Once we hit 500 subs, we will be giving away 2 $100 cash apps back to you, the subs, for all the love and support that you guys have been showing over here at Wassup Doug. Also, we're going to close out like we always do. Quote of the day comes from Mama Dukes again. She sent it to me before me and JC got on, and I actually love it. It says, "Don't be discouraged by the loss of the game. Instead, be encouraged by the lessons you gained. One love." We're out. JC, don't go nowhere.
All right, bro.